The Remarkable Child. A peaceful Bible bedtime story about King Josiah. Long ago, in the quiet hills of the ancient land of Kingdom of Judah, there stood a city of stone walls and golden lamps. When evening came and the sun slowly disappeared behind the hills, the city of Jerusalem would grow calm and still. Torches flickered along the palace corridors, and soft winds moved through the olive trees outside the walls. It was in that city, during a troubled time, that a child was born. His name was Josiah. No one in the palace could have known that this quiet child would one day become one of the most remarkable kings the land would ever remember. For the kingdom had wandered far from wisdom. Many people had forgotten the old teachings that once guided their fathers and mothers. The great temple built long ago by King Solomon still stood in the city, but much of its beauty had faded, and its sacred halls had grown quiet. Yet the story of Josiah began not with power, but with something much smaller. It began with a child who listened. When Josiah was only 8 years old, something unexpected happened. The crown of the kingdom was placed upon his young head. He was now the king. Imagine a child so young sitting upon a great throne of carved wood and shining gold. His feet barely reached the floor, and the royal robes seemed almost too large for his shoulders. Many people wondered quietly among themselves, how can such a young child guide a kingdom? But there was something gentle and thoughtful about Josiah. Even while he was young, he did not rush or boast. Instead, he listened carefully to the wise voices around him. He listened to the elders who still remembered the ancient ways. He listened to the stories of faith passed down through generations. And as the years passed, the young king began to grow, not only in age, but in understanding.
When Josiah became a young man, he began to notice something that troubled his heart. The kingdom he ruled had drifted far from the good path. In many places across the land, people had forgotten the wisdom that once guided them. Old places of worship had been neglected, and the sacred temple in Jerusalem had fallen into disrepair. Dust covered the stones. Broken doors creaked in the wind. Quiet shadows filled the once holy halls. One evening, as the last light of the sun touched the hills beyond the city, Josiah made a quiet decision. He would restore what had been forgotten. And so workers were sent to repair the temple. Stone by stone, the old building began to come alive again. Carpenters repaired doors. Builders strengthened the walls. Priests walked through long-forgotten rooms where dust had gathered for many years. And then, deep within the temple during the work, something remarkable was discovered. Hidden among old rooms and forgotten places, a priest found an ancient scroll. The scroll contained the sacred teachings that had been lost for many generations. Carefully, the scroll was brought to the king. The words were read aloud before him. The room became very quiet as the ancient teachings filled the air once more. They spoke of wisdom, of justice, of kindness, of a people who were meant to walk in goodness and faith. As Josiah listened, his heart grew heavy, for he realized how far the kingdom had wandered away from those beautiful words. But the young king did not respond with anger. Instead, he chose humility. He knew the kingdom could begin again. Soon, the people were gathered together in the temple courtyard. Under the open sky, the ancient scroll was read once more so that everyone could hear. The words echoed across the stone walls. Some people listened with surprise, others with quiet reflection. And slowly, the kingdom began to remember the path of wisdom again.
Josiah worked carefully to guide the people toward goodness and faith. He repaired the temple. He restored the ancient teachings. and he encouraged the people to live with justice, kindness, and humility. The child who had once sat uncertainly upon the throne had become a king remembered for his faithful heart. Now as night falls and the world grows still, the story of Josiah leaves us with a gentle thought. Great things do not always begin with great strength. Sometimes they begin with a quiet heart that listens for wisdom. Josiah was only a child when his journey began, yet his courage and faith helped guide an entire kingdom toward the light once more. And tonight, as the stars slowly appear above the sleeping hills, his story reminds us that even the smallest life can shine brightly when it chooses what is good. For a peaceful heart, guided by wisdom, can bring light even into the darkest places. And with that quiet truth resting softly in our thoughts, the night becomes calm and gentle once again. Good night.